Hey, happy Thursday. Today I am going to page through and review Delta Green Ex Oblivione. Oblivion, whatever. I think it's Oblivion. And we are going to take a look at this adventure for Delta Green as well as a bonus. We're going to take a quick peek at the Delta Green Need to Know, which is kind of the quick start rules, as well as the keeper screen, or in this case, it's the handler screen. So come on in, pull up a chair. The Daily Dope is in the air. Howdy, gang. Yes, I'm Jeff McAleer, back once again as your host here at The Daily Dope, presented by thegaminggang.com, which I happen to be the founder and editor-in-chief, otherwise known as the Grand Poobah. Little finger guns there, right? So tonight is Thursday, February 20th, 2020. A lot of twos in there. This is episode 444, a lot of fours in there, of The Daily Dope. If this is your first time tuning in, let me point out, this is very casual, just a live stream, mainly talking about tabletop gaming news and reviews and first looks, and sometimes I toss out some interviews and so on and so forth, but it is certainly not any sort of rocket surgery by any stretch of the imagination, so please don't expect it to be. Of course, if you like this video, give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. If you do subscribe, don't forget, ring that little bell because it will notify you of when this stream goes live. So you'll get a notification usually within a minute or so that the Daily Dope is streaming live. Now, I know some folks, it takes hours for them to get the notification. I have nothing to do with that. And of course, when you are not watching videos on the Gaming Gang channel, be sure to visit thegaminggang.com for all the latest in gaming news, reviews, comics, movies, TV. You know the drill. Get your geek on at thegaminggang.com. All right, so also want to point out, because this is a live stream, there is chat available. It is not on screen. One of the ways that I keep some of the more unusual commenters at bay, but I do pay attention to chat, or do my best to pay attention to chat. So if you want to say howdy, or maybe you've got a question or a comment, by all means, fire away. I will do my best to respond. So far in chat, we've got a great day. The Madman and Flaming Huron are here watching live. Some of the regulars hanging out. So welcome aboard, everybody. No show yesterday. I got last minute. I was begged, oh please, to go keep an eye on my niece and nephew. It's more keeping an eye on my niece. My nephew, Cameron's 18, but he's an 18-year-old whose nose is always in a phone or on a screen playing a video game, stuff like that. The house could probably burn down around him, and he wouldn't notice. So I was asked last minute if I could go keep an eye on them because my brother and my sister-in-law were both on trips. They both work for airlines, and neither one was going to be home. So I was like, okay. So Grady points out that Scott Poulter of West End Games passed away. Yes, I had heard about that. Every time you see somebody who you remember from long ago. I mean, I've been gaming for over 40 years. And, like when Gary Gygax passed away, I was like, oh, geez, man. And yes, I mean, West End Games had some great stuff. I know a lot of people just remember their Star Wars D6 role-playing, which was fantastic. They also did the original Torg. They did Master Book, which was the good Indiana Jones role-playing game. Wish we could see that again. Those physical books are they are so out of print and so phenomenally expensive on the secondary market. But I do remember that as well. So Flaming Heron says, I just sit in chat early now in case it's on sites yesterday. Well, you usually will get an update. If something comes up, I always put in the community for the channel. I also tweet on Twitter. So it's usually a good idea if you follow me on Twitter at The Gaming Gang, because usually late morning, early afternoon, I will mention, hey, this is what I'm covering tonight, and I may have news about this or that or so on and so forth. So I always recommend people follow me over on Twitter. Every once in a while, I forget to post something in the community on YouTube. So yes, as I've pointed out umpteen times, I am not the greatest at social media promotion. You knew what to tell you. I know I've been doing this for, well, we're in our 10th year. In fact, I did tweet earlier that we have, as of today, exactly 9,600 articles on thegaminggang.com. That's right, 9,600 posts on thegaminggang.com. So we have averaged about 1,000 posts a year. So, in fact, a little bit more than that, because we will actually celebrate our 10th anniversary in September. And I am sure there will be 400 new articles or new posts by then. And when I say articles, I also include when we post the little article that includes this video, the Daily Dope, things like that. So, yeah, it's pretty wild. Pretty wild. All right. Anywho, do want to mention, got some goodies from Chaosium Inc. today. I will be showing those off. Some of them are slotted in for me to take a peek at on next week's shows, which may end up being the final episodes of the Daily Dope. No. We'll see. Once again, we're not pulling that many views. In fact, the last show I think was at 69 views. That was 2 days ago. So, I mean, I understand it. It's a game that a lot of people don't know anything about. But still, anyway, we'll see. We'll see what happens. Don't get worked up or worried. It's not like I'm going anywhere. So, anyway, so I will get to that. I will talk a little bit about those Chaosium releases. Also, as I mentioned in the open, I'm going to page through and review Ex Oblivione from Arc Dream Publishing for Delta Green. So that is coming up in just a little bit. I've got some tabletop gaming news. Do want to mention tomorrow's show, I'm going to be doing a review, do a how to play in a review of Thieves' Den. But I probably will not have any tabletop gaming news. So, you know, when I do my how to plays and stuff, they're usually about 45 minutes. So yeah, so I'm probably not gonna do any news tomorrow, unless there's like some big news piece that I really want to get out there, such as tonight. Talk about segueing into the news, right? Because my friends over at Flying Pig Games, yes, that's right, Mark H. Walker, they've launched a new Kickstarter. It started yesterday. I've got the dope on La Resistance. No. Designed by Mark H. Walker, La Resistance is a simple yet engaging dice and card game set during the German occupation of France in World War II. During the occupation, brave French men and women fought against the Nazi conquerors, disrupting their communications, destroying supply warehouses, and ambushing German patrols. La Resistance gives players a chance to lead a band of resistance fighters working to keep their men and women alive, as they also strive to become the most famous resistance leader. On each turn, a player will roll 6 dice, placing the dice on mission cards common to all players. The player attempts to defeat the mission card by matching dice on the card, spending recruits, and using the resistant leader's special abilities. To win, a player must amass 12 glory points or break by stealing or otherwise removing all rival resistance group members, the other resistance bands. La Resistance mixes in historical setting with elements of popular dice games such as Yahtzee and King of Tokyo, with Take That card mechanics and player interaction, giving the game a familiar, fun feel. The game is historically themed and a great way to introduce gamers to strategy games. 2 is possible, but less fun. To 5 people may play. So, La Resistance is perfect for game nights and family get-togethers. La Resistance is a simple yet challenging strategy game for wargamers and casual strategy gamers alike. There is a short Kickstarter video, which is actually a lot longer on Kickstarter. I don't know what happened when they uploaded that, but it's like 6.5 minutes, and about 4 minutes is just a black screen. I reached out to Mark by email to point that out. Something else I will mention about this video is that the music in the background was pissing YouTube off big time. Yes, not necessarily. I mean, if I included this music, it would give me a copyright strike, which is a big deal. We don't want that. So what I have done is I have used the beta from YouTube that's kind of muting out the music. So you'll find the volume and the voices a little bit off, but there's enough there for you to understand what the hell they're talking about. So without further ado, let's take a look at La Resistance!
A game for gamers, made by Flying Pig Games.
Occupied France. From June 1940 until October 1944, tens of thousands of women and men fought against the Axis occupation force and the French Vichy regime. With cards, dice, and up to 4 friends, you can now do the same. As commander of a resistance group, you need to complete missions, called by a varied mission card deck. Roll your dice and execute your strategy wisely. Gather recruits, defeat enemies, or pass them along to the next player. The winner is the first to accumulate 12 glory points, or leader of the last resistance standing. From the beginning, the French resistance attracted people from all walks of life and political views. Poor people, aristocrats, conservative Roman Catholics, students, immigrants, liberals, anarchists, and communists. Naturally, the distrust between cells with different backgrounds and objectives was high. From time to time, this lack of faith even led to direct conflict. This distrust is the basis for the resistance mechanism. This allows you to trip up your advisories or sweet-talk them, allowing your own group to accumulate more and more glory, and have great fun doing so. But don't forget, there can only be one winner. La Resistance, a game made by gamers, for all gamers, by Flying Pig Games.
The Kickstarter for La Resistance started yesterday, and it is about 60% of the way to a very modest funding goal. I think the funding goal is something like $6,500, something around there. You can reserve a copy of the game as well as all unlocked stretch goals for a $20 pledge through March 18th. Yes, you heard me correctly, a $20 pledge. You can expect delivery of La Resistance this August. I keep saying La Resistance because if you have seen my interview with Mark from last Origins, we did talk a bit about La Resistance, and we kept kind of jokingly trying to outdo each other with our oddball French pronunciation. So, I gotta be honest, I only took a look at the prototype that they had there. I will point out, I am 99.9% positive that Alexander and Grant have a video over on the Player's Aid that they shot playing with Mark H. Walker. Almost positive, because I was actually there saying hi to Mark and the gang, because I would swing by there every day to see how things were going. And they were both sitting there playing. Well, the 3 of them were actually sitting there playing. So, like I said, I'm almost positive there's a video. I'm pretty sure it's part of the Kickstarter as well. So, a couple of things here I do want to point out is the character card that they show for this resistance leader, it says that this character's father was murdered by the Nazis and her mother was raped by the Nazis. And it's sort of like, dude, I don't know. Do you really want to put that on the game? Come on. Not, this is supposed to be kind of like a lightweight game. Yes, I understand. It is a serious topic, of course. But, and then, in the same breath, you're going, oh, if you like light dice chucking and dice assigning games like Yahtzee, something doesn't jive there. It's a little bit of a disconnect. But this looks like a good game. I will also mention that Mark had reached out to me. They're going to shoot along a prototype for me to take a peek at. So that should be hopefully soon, because it wouldn't make sense for me to take a look at it after the Kickstarter, right? So anyway, that is La Resistance from my friends over at Flying Pig Games. So a grade A had pointed out, and I had run across this. I was going to mention this a little bit later on, but there is a pretty solid rumor floating around out there that Fantasy Flight Games is pulling the plug on all of their role-playing game lines. All of them. Yes, I'm looking at you, Star Wars. So, I don't know, something is going on. Something weird's going on behind the scenes over at Fantasy Flight Games. So, I don't know. Yes, and if that is the case, because remember we talked a little bit about what was going on with Fantasy Flight, kind of bouncing around some ideas, and when they basically shut down their Fantasy Flight Interactive, which was only in charge of one game. It was only the Lord of the Rings Living Card Game Digital Edition, which is actually pretty good. But, there's all this stuff going on. I'm not sure. I'm wondering, are they losing the license for Star Wars? I don't know. So Grade A points out, Legend of the Five Rings, Star Wars, Genesis, which is fairly new, which is effectively their generic, their GURPS-like, or basic role-playing like generic system that utilizes the special dice pools that the Star Wars role-playing games do. So all of them. Very strange. Well, I'll have to keep my ear to the ground to see what might be going on. But because remember, we were talking about because Asmodee is for sale. I think everybody knows that it's really just a holding company that does own Asmodee. Even though Asmodee continues to gobble up smaller companies, it is owned by a holding company who is eventually going to look to just probably piecemeal things out. I don't think they'll sell Asmodee just as one big entity. I don't know. I honestly do not know. But yes, a great day. I was going to mention that after the news, but I figured, well, since you were tossing that out in chat, might as well jump in there and talk about that. So it's Thursday. Oh, actually, one thing before I jump into the next news piece. Little different exposure tonight. So instead of being really bright and kind of washed out, now tonight it looks a little darker. So it's a little difficult for me to get the exposure right when I'm not in front of the camera. Because I have to be behind the camera to get the exposure, and if I'm not in front of the camera, it's a little tough to pull that one off. So I'm kind of curious what you folks out there like. Do you like the more like kind of realistic lighting, like tonight, although it's a little bit darker, or do you prefer the kind of really bright exposure that I've had the past couple of shows? So I'm just curious. I mean, I don't know. Looks okay. I mean, you can see more of the imperfections in my face. Besides the whole big imperfection. All right. So, anyway, it is Thursday night. I do love my role-playing games. And I try to devote Thursdays to role-playing games. So my next news piece is actually moving on into RPGs, because now available from Chaosium Inc. for Call of Cthulhu is the 3rd edition of Cthulhu Dark Ages. Bing! There we go. Thank you. Thank you, news. Anyway, here's the dope. Cthulhu Dark Ages is a world lit only by fire. The ancient empires collapsed centuries ago, taking their culture and learning with them. It's a dark world, and people are right to be afraid of the dark. Apart from Viking raiders, witches, and outlaws, there are the unquiet dead, ancient horrors, and other malevolent beings stalking the countryside. Never saw that on the History Channel, did you? Dark entities beyond good and evil wait hidden in the recesses of time and the angles of space. A few brave souls try their best to resist the horrors and push them back from whence they came. With the 3rd edition, Cthulhu Dark Ages has been updated for Call of Cthulhu 7th edition, completely revised, and includes a wealth of new setting material. Inside, you'll find a player's guide to the Dark Ages, an optional sanity mechanic for mirroring the medieval mindset, rules for the oral tradition of storytelling, and mounted combat. I'm not sure how those two go together. A grimoire of Dark Age spells, plus optional rules for folk magic, a bestiary of monsters, as well as a fully detailed setting, the Anglo-Saxon community of Tapper in England's Severn Valley, full of interesting characters, dwelling descriptions, and a multitude of plot hooks for keepers to use and develop. This new 3rd edition comes in full color with additional material concerning poetry and cannings, the written word, using the oral tradition in games, amulets, further use of sanity in the setting, paganism, and Norse paganism. A couple brands of paganism there, folks. 3 ready-to-play scenarios introduce players to the world of Cthulhu Dark Ages, building on the tensions, characters, and horrors lurking in Tober and the land surrounding the community. There's The Hunt, wherein a terrifying wolf is troubling the community of Tober and must be dealt with. This short adventure provides the perfect introduction to the Dark Ages setting. The Doom That Came to Wessex. All is not well at the monastery of Eswithan, with an attack leaving some of the monks dead or injured. Something foul is afoot, threatening the very sanctity of the monastery. And then there's Iswild. Oswin, the Chirin of Tapper, I have no idea what that's supposed to be, probably like the mayor, is my guess, is concerned about the disappearance of his son, sent on a diplomatic mission to calm tension with a neighboring community, who seems to have vanished without a trace in the dark, foreboding Eswild forest. The book is rounded out with comprehensive appendices containing a Dark Ages glossary of historical terms, a timeline covering 950 to 1054 CE, a who's who of notable historical people, kings, and popes, and a bibliography of texts and sources of inspiration. Throughout, advice and guidance on running adventures and presenting the world of the Dark Ages is provided. The 270-page Cthulhu Dark Ages 3rd edition PDF is available right now at DriveThruRPG for $21.99. Cool. I'm kind of curious, and I will toss this question out to my RPG historians who are watching right now. Am I correct in remembering that the original Cthulhu Dark Ages and the original Cthulhu Invictus, which is the Roman Empire, weren't those both originally Chaosium monographs? Or I think they're called monographs, not called monograms, which are kind of they're available through Chaosium, but they weren't actually put together. It's almost like community, almost like DM's Guild is for D&D PDFs. I could have swore that was the case. I am not positive. So, Flaming Huron and Grey Day, I believe you are pretty knowledgeable about the history of role-playing games. So, do me a favor, chime in if you know, or I know every once in a while we have somebody go take a peek on Google while the show's going. So we have Endeloth in chat, and Joe Besser fan. Joe Besser fan. That's pretty wild. A little Three Stooges action there, right? Or was that Joe Fesser? I thought it was Joe Besser. I don't know. I don't know. Anyway, we got a couple of new folks in chat. Welcome aboard. Thank you for coming in and hanging out. So my final tabletop gaming news piece is something pretty cool. It is also a new release that's over on Drive-Thru RPG in PDF. And following a successful Kickstarter, Ultra Modern 5 Redux is now available in PDF from Ex Machina Games. I know some people call it Machina, but I was always taught it's Ex Machina. Anyway, here is the dope on Ultra Modern 5. The original Ultra Modern 5 was the most successful non-fantasy rule set for 5th edition. Dungeons & Dragons, that is. Remember, they can't say these things. I can say these things. Anyway, this revised sourcebook doubles the content of the original with revised rules and brand new mechanics to customize any game. Ultramodern 5 presents races, classes, archetypes, gear, monsters, and scenarios that can be inserted into any campaign. This includes cyberpunk, espionage, modern warfare, mecha, space opera, steampunk, techno-fantasy, and Wild West. This sourcebook includes 10 new races, including aliens, robots, and mutants, a new life path system incorporating backgrounds into an adjustable character history, a revised ladder system offering more customization with character creation, 12 new classes, including infiltrator, medic, and sniper, 26 archetypes, over 130 different firearms from pistols to plasma artillery, sci-fi inspired melee weapons, new armor, over 40 new options, including exoskeletons and mechs, rules for portable force fields to mimic popular video games, new gear, including cybernetics, vehicles, and aircraft, a complete universal giant robot mecha construction system, which is 25 pages in length, a techno-magical spell system with enchanted technology, a new class, and a revised spell list, over 70 monsters, including aliens, robots, and customizable adversaries. New treasure tables, including loot and shoot rules. 6 location maps with action scenes to include in any adventure. A spacecraft combat system. A customizable sci-fi dungeon map system with 30 different rooms. 2 new adventures. The cyberpunk superhero Necropolis and the space horror Threshold. And much, much more. But wait! There's more. Do want to share the quick Kickstarter video. This is not a Kickstarter. This is out in PDF. But I did want to share a little more information, give you a closer look. Some of the artwork looks really, really nice in this book. So kick back. It's a little more than a minute. So we'll take a peek.
Steampunk, space opera, espionage, supernatural, cyberpunk. Pick your setting, or play them all. In 2016, Ultramodern 5 exploded onto the gaming scene. On Drive-Thru RPG, it earned a copper badge in a day, silver in 2, finally reaching platinum after only 3 months. At the time, one of only 2 third-party 5e books to do so. Ultramodern 5 doesn't present one world. Instead, it provides the tools to make your own settings within the 5th edition framework. In the original book, classes, equipment, and scenarios were generalized. In this revised edition, every facet is being expanded, including rules regarding mecha, cybernetics, and the paranormal, effectively doubling the size of the original publication. More weapons, more armor, more opponents. This new edition of Ultramodern 5 will replace all previous artwork with new color illustrations provided by Hugo-nominated artist Nick Greenwood. The main books will also be supported by downloaded digital modules, including new standalone adventures and expanded rules tied to a new setting, Affinity, which blends many of the elements of Ultramodern 5 together. With Ultramodern 5, you can harness the tools to create any world you want, mix them all, or focus on one. The only limit is your imagination.
As mentioned previously, this is not a Kickstarter. This is out in PDF. I'm not sure if or when you will have the opportunity to purchase hard copies of Ultramodern 5 Redux. But the 410-page PDF, you heard me right, 410 pages, it can be had over at DriveThruRPG for $19.99. That is an awesome price for a 410-page PDF, which has some cool artwork as well. So one thing I wanted to ask, if you were paying much attention to that video, there was an image that shot past that looks almost exactly like a Simon Stollenhag, I think that's how his name is pronounced, image from Tales from the Loop / Things from the Flood. And it's like a kid walking through kind of like a field, and then they kind of fade in this big mech. I'm like, I wonder what that was inspired by. So that is it for the tabletop gaming news tonight. I have one other news piece I'm going to talk about in just a moment as well. I wanted to mention that as far as the conventions this summer, spring and summer, I, over the past 3 days, have ironed out my press passes for C2E2, which is in Chicago. It's a couple of weeks. It's all right. It's not something I find like really thrilling. It's more my brother's a big fan of that. So we've got that coming up. Origins Game Fair. We're going to be at WonderCon in Anaheim for the first time. We're actually going to go out and cover that. That's in April. And of course, we've got San Diego Comic-Con, and right on the heels of that is Gen Con. No joke. I've mentioned it in the past. I will get back from San Diego Comic-Con on Monday, and I will leave to go to Gen Con that Wednesday morning in the wee early hours of the AM. It's like, jeez. Ay. But Elliot Miller should be accompanying us to Comic-Con and Gen Con this year. I invited him to come with me to Origins. I have a spare press pass. He could do some work for me, but he doesn't think he can pull it off. Anyway, so we've got some cool cons coming up. So stay tuned. We usually get some pretty cool interviews through those. And you never know what we're going to get with San Diego Comic-Con. Just one year we had the opportunity to be part of the panel for the Man in the High Castle, the press panel for that, which were round tables, so it was really good. And Supernatural, I mean, it was like, it came out of nowhere, and we ended up in it. Last year we did the Ghost Adventures, which that video, I swear, we still have, now keep in mind, this last July. That video still pulls in about 100 views a day. It's like, geez, really? But then again, we were the only people who actually shared the entire press panel. So, as opposed to people just chopping it up in a couple of minutes. Anyway, my other news piece did want to point out that it is Thursday. So that basically means that we've got new free PC games over at Epic Games Store. That's right, this week brings a double dip. We get Feria from Versus Evil and Assassin's Creed Syndicate from Ubisoft. Okay, so I know I don't have to really go into any detail about Assassin's Creed. I'm sure Just about everybody knows about Assassin's Creed. And Syndicate was fairly well received. But I do have a little video for Feria. Because it's not something I'm familiar with. But it is actually something that I think would be up the alley of a lot of board gamers and tabletop gamers out there. Because it's kind of a card game. So, without further ado, let's take a quick peek. Once again, this video is about a minute long. Let's take a quick peek at Feria.
Long ago, the four gods of the elements created the continents. Wars began, empires were formed. From this strife arose magic and mystical energies, bringing great creatures and terrible powers. Now the gods battle over these landscapes, using all of their strength to gather the Feria. Out now.
I told you it was a quick video. So, I get a kick out of it. The perfect combination of Hearthstone and Catan. It's like two games that I'm like, eh. It's like, wow. Does that make it super eh? But I did take a peek as far as the reviews and everything are very, very positive for Feria. So you can get these absolutely free. All you got to do is go to epicgames.com, create an account. I don't even think you need to give them any sort of a credit card or anything like that. And you just simply, boom, click on the free games, add them to your account, and you are good to go. I did have someone email asking, which I thought was kind of strange, why don't they just go to Epic Games and find out themselves? They were asking, do you have to download the game right there and then? And no, it's just like Steam. If you get any games through Steam, it's added to your account. You can download it and start playing right away. But if you take a break or you need to free up some space on your hard drive, you can simply delete it. You still have that game in your account. So to get the free games, you do not have to download them immediately to be able to get them free. You do have to add them to your account. You have to place your order. It says $0, 0 cents. You have to place your order to have it added to your account. So a Grey Day points out, yes, it's Ex Machina, which is how I've always pronounced it. Because I used to read the comic book Deus Ex Machina from Vertigo, which was a Grant Morrison comic, if I remember right. I think it was Grant Morrison. Really good comic. I used to read Why the Last Man, which I have seen that they've pulled the plug on that television series. That sucks, because that's been in development hell forever. And they were supposed to have been... Either they pulled the plug on it, or it was a movie. No, I think though that was The Stand. That, because I run across all this different stuff. So it's like... but... I do believe they're no longer in production on Why the Last Man, and that sucks. But The Great Machine is actually the title of the movie that they're making based on Deus Ex Machina. So that is in the works as well. But I thought they didn't want to confuse this movie with the other science fiction movie that's already been out. Ex Machina, which is actually really good, although I don't like the ending that much. So they were like, oh, we better call this The Great Machine. So, we've got Rob German hanging out in chat. Good to see you, Rob. Thanks for popping on in. And Joe Besserfan says, I'm a globetrotter. Well, just the United States part of the globe. Used to travel a whole lot when I used to deliver the RVs all around the country. Kind of miss that. I kind of miss just going all over the place. Usually the West Coast. But I don't miss not being home. So we got that. All right. Without further ado, let's jump on in. because I am going to do a quick page through and review Delta Green Ex Oblivione from Art Dream Publishing. This adventure is written by Dennis Detweiler, who also pulls double duty as the artist. This 30-page role-playing game adventure, as I mentioned, is for Delta Green. It is available as a softcover for $14.99 or in PDF from Drive-Thru RPG for $4.99. So let me grab a quick sip here. Hopefully everybody's having a great Thursday night so far. All right, so here we go. We've got Delta Green Ex Oblivione. Let me double check to make sure that the focus is okay here. Nope. All right, come on. What's going on here? There we go. So I think if you follow the show, you do know that I kind of swapped cameras out a little bit. And the camera that I'm using now has a really much better zoom than the Nikon. So this is the Panasonic up here. Lumix G85. And the Nikon D3400 is my forward-facing camera. I used to have them switched around. So that's why we see the kind of different exposure and stuff. Still messing around with the Nikon. But with the Panasonic, the auto zoom on it is not that great. But once it's focused, did I say auto zoom? Autofocus. The autofocus isn't all that great, but once it's focused, it's really nice. So I have noticed that there have been a couple of times in recent videos where things have kind of gotten out of focus for a few moments. I have all these different things up on my screen, including my kind of teleprompter and chat and things like that. Sometimes I have to stop and blow up the actual preview of the video of the stream to make sure things look like they're in focus. So one thing I want to mention before I jump in here is, if you're watching the show, be sure if anything's ever out of focus, or it's like we've had some issues with the sound getting all wacky, do not hesitate to mention that in chat, because sometimes, I'm not like the cameraman, right? I'm not the videographer here. I'm trying to present like a review and talking about the game and stuff. So I'm not always looking at the screen to see how the video looks. So I'm going to point out, this is not going to be spoiler free. This is going to be spoiler filled. I can't really provide a review of the adventure without giving you a lowdown on what's going on in it. So I do want to point out, if you are a player and you are trying to get your handler, which that sounds weird, right? Trying to get your game master to run Ex Oblivione for Delta Green, you best probably tune out, because I don't want to ruin your enjoyment of the adventure. This is 30 pages, as I mentioned before. Let's take a look at the back. The past is bloody teeth, which still hunger. Something evil has stirred in a tiny desert town. It haunts the area like the thin clouds which taint the sky each morning, turning the sun blood red. Sometimes it is thick and choking. Other times, it's a skein so barely there, it's easy to forget it exists at all. It holds the people in check. Only black flat top and sun devils wait for them each and every day. But few ever leave, and the evil around them can no longer be denied. A gruesome crime draws Delta Green to the haunted desert. Bodies have been ritualistically mutilated. Bizarre words carved into the drywall speak to the insanity of the killer, and to Delta Green, the urgency of the investigation. Home, dagon, home, home! Sea to the sea. Ex Oblivione is a complete scenario for Delta Green, the role-playing game of Lovecraftian horror and conspiracy. It's playable with the full rules in the Agent's Handbook, or the quick start rules in Delta Green Need to Know, which we're going to take a peek at in just a few moments. Available from Art Dream Publishing. And of course, Learn more at delta-green.com. So, jumping on in, this is a pretty new adventure as well. There's a lot of this that I like. I like the setup. I like what's going on, the backstory. But I think it falls apart at the end. So essentially, what takes place is there's a murder in Yuma, Arizona. Well, or like a place just like a suburb of Yuma, which Yuma is actually really small. So I used to live in Chandler and Mesa and Gilbert, Arizona. I lived in Arizona for about 10 years. No, I'm born and raised in Chicago. And I've only been to Yuma once, and it's pretty small. So there's a murder. So it's an older man and his wife, their teenage daughter, her husband-to-be, who's in the military, and an infant. So first of all, I should point out that the vast majority of Delta Green adventures, and just like when I talk about adventures for Call of Cthulhu that are from Stygian Fox, these can be pretty gruesome. Most of the modern adventures that I run across tend to be a bit more intense than you would normally encounter, say, in a 1920s Chaosium adventure. That is certainly the case here. There are aspects of this adventure that, if you have more sensitive gamers in your group, you might not go in this direction. So essentially, there's this brutal multiple murder, and the Delta Green characters are called in because of, first of all, it's like a ritualistic murder, and there's the various different words that are scrawled or into the wall, which I was reading on the back. And of course, Delta Green hears about this, and they send the investigators, the agents, to investigate what's going on, because of course, Dagon, ding 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 ding, starts ringing some bells there. So anyway, so here it is right here. Home Dagon, home, unpronounceable word, sea to the sea. So what has happened is these people have been murdered really for absolutely no reason. None whatsoever. There is actually really no motive to this heinous crime. But the characters will go, and you've got a couple of options. They can either be Delta Green agents, because if you're familiar with Delta Green, you've got two organizations that the characters really can be from. One is from the program itself, Delta Green, and the other is the Outlaws, which are not necessarily a governmental agency. Very similar. I mean, they're both looking to fight Lovecraftian horrors and things like that. Anyway, the one thing that I really, really do like about this adventure is how it ties into Shadows over Innsmouth. Because what is happening, or what had happened in the past, is if you're familiar with the story, once again, if I'm spoiling something from a story from the 1930s, sorry, but it's not a spoiler when it's like almost 100 years later. Anyway, so the Marsh family, who is supposed to be the big movers and shakers in Innsmouth, who are kind of behind the whole interspecies romance between the deep ones and the humans and the hybrids and things like that. Well, one of the Marsh family, actually, after the raid, the U.S. government took prisoners, and they didn't know where they should keep them, and they had actually kind of doled them out to different locations, which was just a big mistake, because there were escape attempts and jailers going mad and things like that. So what effectively ends up happening is the U.S. government puts all of the prisoners in this naval facility that's in Arizona. So that's where they were kept. And so, of course, this is after, after the fact. So what has happened is the one Marsh family member was able to escape by using some dreams in the witch house, kind of like magics to escape, which actually destroyed his body, but still kept his consciousness. And he is effectively just kind of hovered in this town, this little town, just kind of seeping into almost everything, just poisoning everything, including the townspeople's minds, about half of them. So what'll happen is the agents come in, they're going to investigate the scene of the crime. They find all these different things. One thing I thought was kind of interesting too is if the player characters they learn about Innsmouth, and if they contact Delta Green tells them that's a need to know basis and you don't need to know. So hey, Kabuki Kid's in chat. Good to see you, Kabuki Kid. So I love how the adventure ties back into Shadows over Innsmouth. I really, really do. I really, really like it. So your agents are investigating the house, various different clues, and they find a nanny cam in a teddy bear, and they're able to, which the police have not found. And basically, they see video of this little girl who's like 10 years old, something like that, just covered in blood, and she's walking around. She's carrying something in her hand, but you can't really tell what it is. So it turns out these little kids are actually the killers, and the little kids were taken over by let me see the guy's name. I can't remember the first name here. Albert Marsh, and just drove them to murder these people. Just like I said, there's no motive whatsoever. It's just blind hatred. And what the little girl's carrying in her hand is the little infant dead. Like I said, there's stuff in here that's going to trigger people. That if you have more sensitive gamers out there, what is it? Younger and more sensitive gamers. Younger and more sensitive viewers, take note. So they eventually find some leads that take them to the old naval facility where the various different hybrids and prisoners that they captured during the raid on Innsmouth were kept. And of course, it's gone. It's nothing. Everything's gone. It's not active, right? It's just ruins, kind of. So they'll find some more information out about that. They actually will confront the kids, and the kids will attack them. Once again, like I said, here you go. You're sort of like, so what do you do? I mean, these kids are trying to kill the agents. What are you supposed to do? Like, kill little 10-year-old kids? Jeez. So, and of course, if you do attack the kids or fight back against the kids, you risk sanity loss. There you go. It's the Naval Medicine Annex is the location. There's the nanny cam. So what will eventually happen is the agents get drawn into this other location, because what Albert Marsh is trying to do is they are trying to complete a sacrifice to Dagon during the summer solstice. And in doing so, what he's going to do, because he's kind of losing his grasp on this reality, this dimension. So before he goes, he wants to go out in a blaze of glory by actually sacrificing the entire town of Mustang, which is supposed to be just outside Yuma. And this is kind of where the adventure sort of falls off a cliff. So Fleming runs, popping in. Says, yeah, I haven't been here a long time. Sorry. They're working on a hot water heater and sorting out insurance and things like that. Hey, that's okay. Not a problem. Just, yeah, a lot of people watch this show or listen to this show, yeah, kind of in the background. So anyway, so in my opinion, the Battle of Mustang is where this kind of falls off a cliff. And the reason behind that is that the player characters, the agents, are drawn into this town really by any means necessary. So effectively what happens is this Albert Marsh creature, entity, I guess we'll say, is able to read one of the agents and basically knows everything about them. They're able to kind of mentally read everything about them. So even if it takes having to kidnap one of their family members and bring them to this town, the player agents are going to get drawn into this town of Mustang no matter what. There, I'm kind of like, eh. But what happens is, and once again, here's yet another aspect of the adventure that is rather gruesome, is that half of the town is going to murder the other half of the town. So if, suddenly brings back, to me, it sort of makes me think of like movies like The Wicker Man, Race with the Devil. Remember the old Peter Fonda movie with the Satanists that are after him? And Peter Fonda and I want to say it's Peter Boyle. I don't know, maybe, I think it's Peter Boyle. And their wives are on an RV trip and they accidentally see a satanic ritual. So it just, that kind of stuff. Another thing that popped in my head is the old old-time radio show from Dimension X, Mars's Heaven, from Ray Bradbury, which is actually part of the Martian Chronicles, when the Martians turn on the Earthmen who have come to their planet. So I mean, all these different things were kind of popping in my head, where it's kind of like, because the population of the town is supposed to be like 360 people, so about 170 people are in the thrall of this Albert Marsh entity, and they're just murdering everybody in town, and they're dragging them off because there's this inside the abandoned theater, they've been building this like statue or whatever. It's supposed to be Dagon. So anyway, a Great A says Shatner was in that. Wasn't it Peter? Was it Peter Fonda and Shatner? I know Peter Fonda was in it. 99%. I'm almost positive. So Joe Besser fan says, watching in bed with the shingles. Ooh. Thankfully, I have never had the shingles, but my dad has, and it is not supposed to be fun. So, sorry to hear that. So, wasn't that the premise in Conan the Destroyer, a sacrifice to Dagon, or Dagon? Wasn't it? Devil's Reign, that's it. Devil's Reign. No, I'm thinking of, I think it's Race with the Devil is what it's called. Anyway. So, the reason why I think the adventure kind of falls off a cliff once we get to Mustang is, for one, I think it's kind of hackneyed that it's like you're dragging the agents to this location. No matter what, they have to end up there. They have to end up there prior to or during the summer solstice. I'm almost positive it's summer solstice. But that part's kind of weak. Plus, what happens as far as the whole massacre that's going on, there's not a lot presented as far as for the players and what's going on. Yep, there you go. Gray Day says Race with the Devil was Fonda in RV. Yep, that's the movie I'm talking about. Where it's suddenly, these crazies. Oh, what's the other? The Crazies. There's another movie that kind of popped into my head when reading this. Either version, either the George Romero version or the remake, which was actually pretty good. I liked it. I thought that was it was a lot better than I was expecting it to be. So Joe Besterfan says, Race with the Devil is great. I know, watching this show, you'll get the weirdest old references out of nowhere from me. I don't tell you. But anyway, so it's kind of like everything's left up to the handler, the game master, as far as what exactly is going on with the agents. I mean, the agents can try to hide out, they can try to get away, but there's just not a lot there that's in the book here. And effectively, it's like the agents just need to survive. And it's kind of like, really? In fact, the big payoff for the agents, if they survive, is 1d6 sanity. That's it. There's really nothing about trying to save people in the town. So the end of the adventure is sort of like a foregone conclusion. You're not going to be able to stop these people. And it's really light on the details as far as what the player agents could be doing. So, up until that point, I do like this adventure. I think you could salvage the ending of the adventure in various different ways. One thing that I look at is, if this were a movie, this would be a pretty cool movie, especially if it was Lovecraftian, right? Because we don't get enough of that. And you could easily see Nicolas Cage being in this. And yes, before somebody asks, I have not seen Color Out of Space yet. I have not seen. I'm going to. I have not seen it yet, and I actually heard it's pretty good. Couldn't be any worse than the one that was out in the '90s with Chet Aiken. I think that's who it was. It was not very good. Anyway, you could salvage this if the agents have some sort of way of like saving some of the town people. I mean, you really can't stop 160 people from like a murder spree in town. Well, like I said, as a movie, this would be super cool. But understanding that, I've got like players that I'm dealing with. Most players don't want their adventure to end on a huge downer. Granted, you play Call of Cthulhu, if and I know everybody talks about, oh well, don't get too fond of your characters because they come and go like the wind. Not normally how I run my games, but yeah, it's just a weird vibe. It's a weird vibe at the end. I wanted to really like this. I like a good portion of this. It's just the ending I feel is a letdown. And most gamers that I know, I'm not going to just assume everybody else out there, but most gamers that I know, when you're playing in an adventure, especially if it's kind of an investigative, even if it's Call of Cthulhu or Lovecraftian horror, they want there to be some sort of way for them to be the heroes, to be the good guys, to help people out. Even if they end up getting killed in the end, right? Isn't that kind of like a big trope with Call of Cthulhu, is making that ultimate sacrifice for the greater good? The way this plays out, there really isn't anything that the player characters can do. So, to me, at least the people I run games for, I think they would not like the ending to this. And I'm not overly keen on it either as a role-playing game adventure. Now, as a one-shot, if you were running something at like a convention, I could see this. Then again, you got all those kind of iffy trigger moments in it. I don't know, maybe it wouldn't be a good convention game. But all in all, on a scale of 1 to 10, I gotta be honest, I only give Ex Oblivione a 6.5. I like portions of it. The ending is, like I said, it just falls off a cliff. Something else I do want to point out, and I'm not really dinging this or most modern role-playing games because the adventure writing is all kind of similar these days. But this would not be super easy to run at the table. You would need a lot of highlighting, a lot of bullet points, a lot of notes. But that is kind of the way role-playing game adventures are nowadays. It's not like, we've got some pretty brief keys and things like that, like map keys. But, like I said, I don't think it'd be real easy to run this at the table. All in all, like I said, 6.5 out of 10, which I was surprised. Honestly, I was very surprised because about halfway through this, I was like, this is interesting. And I'm thinking, who could I run this for? I don't think I'd be running for my nephew and his girlfriend. I could run it for Elliot. Yeah, but his wife wouldn't want to be in. So I was like, So, yes, Joe Besser says, Romero hated fast zombies. Kabuki Kid says, none of these movies are on streaming services usually. If it's older than the 80s, you need to own the physical media. A lot of times you can find some of these movies from oddball distributors. You can find some stuff like Shout Factory, which is not oddball, but Shout Factory carries a lot of old horror movies, like 80s-ish horror movies. So heaven forbid you want old black and white movies. Yeah, I know. Well, most people these days, and I know for a fact, because I have heard people tell me this, if they see a movie is in black and white, they quickly get past it, switch the channel, because they know if it's in black and white, it's boring. Yeah, okay, maybe you don't have cars exploding in that. So, Joe Besterfan says, my girls run away from black and white. I raised them wrong. See? Exactly what I was saying. Work with a guy who always says he hates black and white. He claims to have watched less black and white films than he can count on one hand. Yeah, it's weird. Just think how many great movies you miss out on. And yes, I get it. There are a lot of old movies out there that are really old and creaky. And I mean, I love Turner Classic Movies. But when I'm flipping through and if I hear that hiss, that background hiss that you get from like a 1930s movie, I'm like, because those tend to be kind of slow. But think Citizen Kane, one of my all-time favorite movies. Casablanca, one of my all-time favorite movies. They go back and forth as which one is my favorite. Touch of Evil, fantastic. I'm a big Orson Welles fan. Just think of all those great black and white movies that people are missing out on. So, well, it's a quality that isn't always there. Yeah, sometimes. Well, it's with any movies, right? So, as I mentioned, real quick, we're going to take a look here at Need to Know. And it's like, wow, this is a pretty long show tonight. We're already about an hour, 10 minutes. So, anywho, let's take a quick look here. So, this is the Need to Know. So, let's get the plastic off. As I mentioned, this is kind of the quick start rules. You can get this. This is the quick start rules as well as the handler's screen. And you can get this for $24.99. You can get the Need to Know as a PDF on Drive-Thru RPG. I'm trying to remember. I think it's pay what you want. I'm not positive, but I'm pretty sure it's pay what you want for the Need to Know, which you can really actually run the game from the Need to Know. So the Agent's Handbook is really just a lot of details about Delta Green. I think the Agent's Handbook and the Handler's Guide are excellent. I did review those previously. You want to check those out, you can kind of check out some of the videos on the channel. So let's take a look. First off, let's take a look at the screen. And it's a lower screen. I like these. I like the, look at that. It's 5-panel. So let's try to do it like this. Okay, maybe not. Let's get my drink out of the way. See how we can kind of squeeze this on in here. So, not like that. We'll do it like this. So we've got stats and skills. Don't roll dice if things are calm and under control. Got the skill list. I personally find Delta Green to be kind of almost like a scaled down Call of Cthulhu. It's not as rules heavy as CFC. Kabuki Kid says 70s were a huge decade for cinema. Love the 70s and 80s for movies. I gotta admit, as far as the 70s go, I would say that's probably the decade I've seen the fewest movies from. So, but there are some greats. There are The French Connection, Bonnie and Clyde. Wasn't Bonnie and Clyde 70? I think. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe that's the 60s. So, lots of good. One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. Star Wars. I mean, come on. So, we've got combat. We've got wounds and ailments over here. Next, we've got sanity and willpower. And then we'll take a look at the artwork on the other side. Yeah, take that. Take a little of that with you. All right, that's kind of creepy. There you go. All right, there you have it. That's kind of bizarre piece of artwork to put on the game screen. So there you have it. There we go. Hold that back up. So it was 4. So it's 4 panels. Very nice. Yeah, this will hold up. This will hold up really nicely. Very nicely. So we've got that. And let's take a look at the need to know. And it's going to clock in at about 50 pages. So let's just make sure that I have to duck my head to see underneath the camera here, or actually like kind of right behind the camera. So let's make sure this is nice and in focus here. Looks like it is. Kind of page on through here. Who knows the end? What has risen may sink, and what has sunk may rise. Loathsomeness waits and dreams in the deep, and decay spreads over the tottering cities of men. To live and die in LA is better than French Connection. I would agree. I actually agree with you on that one, Kabuki Kid. They are both really good movies. So, open game license here. Welcome to Delta Green. What do you need? There you go. What's a role-playing game? Boom. 1 paragraph, and we're done. I don't have to go through 3-4 pages. This is the artwork that's on the cover of... Is it The Company? It's the book that's got all the different organizations, which we are going to take a look at. So we got our character sheet here. Kind of character dossier, more like. Talking about wounds and ailments. Creating an agent. So as opposed to a lot of various different quick starts, there are rules of creating your character in Need to Know. Most quick starts usually have some pre-gens and adventure for you to jump into. So we've got some example characters here. So we're talking about pre-gens. Talking about the game system and opposed rolls. When you roll the dice. Combat, 1 page. Death, damage and death, 1 page. Sanity, 1 page. Insanity, 1 page. As I mentioned before, with Delta Green, it is, in my opinion, other people may disagree, but in my opinion, I really think that the game system itself is a lot more streamlined than, say, Call of Cthulhu. then we get an adventure, Last Things Last. Well, it looks like there's a child involved in this too, because that looks like a little child's picture to grandpa, or grandpa, as it says there. So we get a few pages here for the adventure. And the conclusion, that which was Marlene. And that is what we get with Need to Know, which, as I mentioned before, is packaged along with the handler's screen as well, which really nicely done on the screen. So that was just a little bonus. Figured I'd toss that in. So a bit of discussion about movies here. So let's see. Bonnie and Clyde was 68. Yeah, that sounds about right. D12345. Welcome aboard. Missed you popping in chat. Says, Delta Green is my favorite RPG released in the last few years. The mechanics fit the theme perfectly. The physical GM screen looks amazing. Yeah, it does look very nice. Very nicely done. Fall of Delta Green is pretty interesting as well. I have not reviewed it. Sammy reviewed the PDF and was very, very impressed. And funny enough, it uses a completely different system. So it was worked on in conjunction with Arc Dream Publishing. It's a Ken Hite release, and not strangely enough, interestingly enough, it uses a D6 system. So kind of interesting. So To Live and Die in LA, yes, I remember the theme song from Wang Chung. In fact, Wang Chung did the entire soundtrack for that movie, if I remember correctly. Dr. Strangelove, yes, that's a classic. Love that movie. Or How I Learned to Live, excuse me, Dr. Strangelove, or How I Learned to Love the Bomb? I forgot. It's been a while since I watched that movie. I should watch that again. Yep, French Connection, Exorcist, and then Sorcerer for William Friedkin. Yeah, I remember William Friedkin's movies. Although I never saw Sorcerer. Which, strangely enough, I think I didn't see it because at that time, I think that was around 81, 82. And I thought, oh, wow, that must be like a fantasy movie. And then I saw, oh, no, it's not a fantasy movie. Nah, I'm not going to go see it. Okay, so here we've got the review for Ex Oblivione, as well as a sneak peek at Need to Know. So what's cooking on the show? So tomorrow, as I mentioned, I am going to be sharing how to play and reviewing Thieves' Den from Daily Magic Games. Probably no news tomorrow because, as we can see now, tonight's show is going almost an hour and a half. And that was a short RPG adventure, right? So I am going to share a how to play and review Thieves' Den. Then on Monday's show, remember I started the show out by mentioning that I had some items arrive from Paizo Inc. I know, that was like 6 hours back that I said that. Monday show, we are going to talk about the first installment of the Extinction Curse RPG campaign. The show must go on. We're going to page on through this. I'm going to read this over the weekend. I'll probably review it. Plus, something else that I do want to kind of do a little bit with Pathfinder is, if they're kind enough to send me adventures, I am going to talk about maybe porting them over to other systems, as you know, because I think it's already statted for 5e as well as 2nd edition Pathfinder. But I know people like myself, I love taking adventures from other systems and hacking them up so I can use them in my preferred system. So I might look at talking about that. So that's Monday's show. Tuesday, I'll review Sanctum, which is from Czech Games Edition. Wednesday, we are finally, every time it's like, I think I'm cursed when it comes to this game. When I try to do my review for Civilizations of the Inner Sea from GMT Games, like something always comes up. So hopefully next Wednesday, I will do a how to play and review this. Once again, that's probably a show that's got no news. In fact, I might not do any news on next week's shows. See what happens. And then next Thursday, we're going to take a peek at the latest Pathfinder hardcover for 2nd edition, which is Gods and Magic: Lost Omens. So we will be taking a look at this as well. So, Flaming Heron's like, damn, I didn't notice how long we'd been. Not that I'm complaining. Yeah, I mean, it's a live stream. The thing is, watching live, everybody's usually like, yeah, we're having a good time. It's the people who don't watch live who are like, wow, that thing's an hour and a half long. I'm not watching that video. It's because I think the average that most people want to like not watch a movie or not movie, watch anything on YouTube any longer is about 12 minutes. I am not like that. I will watch long videos. So Madman says, I was hoping to see Thieves Den review, but last week, Friday's game night ended up being rescheduled to tomorrow. Hey man, go play some games. Go enjoy yourself. Paizo certainly set me up. Yeah, we've been, my press contact at Paizo, we've kind of gone back and forth on stuff because they had sent the core book and the bestiary, as well as the Pathfinder adventure card game and the first expansion, the first adventure for it. And then that was it. And I was like, what happened? Did you not like the coverage? Because, I mean, those were videos that got thousands of views. It's like, what was wrong? Did you? And it was just basically they were out of stock for a lot of things. Although I have to admit, I am curious what's going on with the Pathfinder Adventure card game, because I thought it was really good. We've enjoyed it. We've liked playing it. But all we got was Curse of the Crimson Throne, and we haven't seen anything since. So I'm kind of curious what might be going on. I'll probably shoot a standalone video for the other item that Paizo sent, and it is the Starfinder Deck of Many Planets. I want to devote a show to it, because what it'll take us 10 minutes to go through and take a look at this. All right, that is it for tonight's show. As I like to point out, if you like the video, please give it a quick thumbs up. Fight those trolls out there. And, of course, subscribe to the channel if you do. Don't forget, ring that little bell, because it will not only notify you when the Daily Dope goes live, it'll also tell you when I upload standalone videos as well. And, of course, when you're not watching videos on the Gaming Gang channel, be sure to visit thegaminggang.com for all the latest in gaming news, reviews, comics, movies, TV. You know the drill. Get your geek on at thegaminggang.com. Everybody who hung out in chat, watching live, thank you very much. We had some new folks pop in to enjoy the stream. Hopefully they thought it was decent. You know, it's a good way to pass the time, maybe. But always appreciate people watching live, because then I'm not just some doofus spouting off into a camera, into the ether. But if you watch the show after the fact, if you don't catch it live, maybe you're even watching on Memorex, that's great too. I certainly appreciate that as well. Everybody enjoy your Thursday night. I will be back tomorrow. And until then, happy trails. Oh, you're still here. Well, if that's the case, by all means, subscribe to the Gaming Gang channel by clicking right here. And of course, if you want to catch up on past episodes of The Daily Dope, check out this playlist. And if you'd like to see what YouTube's recommending you take a peek at from the channel, just give a click right over here. Of course, I'm Jeff McAleer, and once again, thank you very much for watching.